You've heard of the Drake Passage. The massive waves, the ships that never came back. People fear it for good reason. But there's another sea, one most people pass over on a map without a thought. A sea that looks small, manageable, almost harmless. It isn't. Subscribe for more deep ocean mysteries grounded in real science and history. This sea sits between Britain, Norway, and the European coast. Hundreds of ships cross it every day. And yet it has killed tens of thousands of sailors, swallowed warships, and destroyed oil platforms in minutes. Its danger is very real, and almost no one talks about it. This is the North Sea, and it is far more dangerous than you think. Today we'll explore the science, the history, and two disasters that changed how the world thinks about working at sea. By the end, you will understand exactly why. Look at a map and find the North Sea. It spans 220,000 square miles, roughly the size of France. Great Britain to the west. Norway, Denmark, Germany, the Netherlands to the east. The Rhine, the Thames, the Seine all drain into it. A true European sea and a deeply deceptive one. That is exactly what makes it dangerous. Unlike the open Pacific, which commands respect by its sheer scale, the North Sea looks contained, enclosed. You can see both shores in some places. That apparent smallness tricks people into underestimating it, and that underestimation has cost thousands of lives. Here is the first hidden danger. The North Sea is remarkably shallow. In the southern basin, average depths are just 30 meters, barely 100 feet. The Doggerbank Plateau rises to just 15 meters below the surface. Ships cross it every day. In rough weather, that shallowness becomes a trap. When Atlantic swells hit that shallow seabed, waves have nowhere to go but up. They steepen, compress, and pile on each other. Short, steep, relentless. Unlike the long rolling swells of open ocean, North Sea waves give almost no recovery time between impacts. Sailors describe it as being punched, not rolled. Over 200,000 commercial ship movements pass through here every year. Add oil platforms, pipelines, ferry routes, fishing fleets, and wind farms. The North Sea is not a wilderness. It is a crowded, storm-swept highway where every vessel is only one bad forecast away from catastrophe. The first reason the North Sea is so dangerous is wind. The North Atlantic storm track runs directly above it. Storms born in the open Atlantic squeeze between Iceland and Scotland, funneling into this enclosed basin. Speeds regularly exceed 100 knots. The narrow sea compresses every gust, accelerating it without mercy. The second reason is wave character. In open ocean, waves travel in long, predictable sets. Sailors can read and brace for them. In the North Sea, multiple systems from different directions constantly collide. The result is confused seas where a wall of water can hit from any angle, with no warning at all. On New Year's Day, 1995, a sensor on the Dropner platform recorded a wave 25.6 meters high, 84 feet, that appeared without warning and vanished just as fast. Surrounding waves were 12 meters. This one was more than double. It became the first scientifically confirmed rogue wave ever recorded. Rogue waves form when multiple systems converge and amplify at the same point, at the same moment. In the North Sea, where Atlantic swells, storm surges, and local chop constantly collide, conditions are nearly perfect. Scientists now believe they occur here far more often than anyone has officially admitted. Tides add another layer. Along the British coast, water rises and falls up to 6 meters twice every day. In a storm, a surge timed with high tide raises levels several more meters in hours. Sandbanks appear and vanish. Ships have been running aground on these coasts for 1,000 years. Then there is the cold. North Sea water in winter drops to 2 to 6 degrees Celsius. Without immersion gear, a person is incapacitated in under 10 minutes. Unconscious within 30, dead within an hour. Out here, the sea is not the backdrop to the emergency. It is the emergency. July 6, 1988, 120 miles northeast of Aberdeen. Piper Alpha produced 320,000 barrels of oil per day, roughly 10% of the UK's total output. 226 men lived and worked on it. By the following morning, 167 of them would be dead. Earlier that day, a crew removed a safety valve from a condensate pump for servicing. A temporary cap was fitted. A permit was written, "Pump A out of service, do not restart." Filed correctly, never communicated during the shift change. The incoming crew had absolutely no idea. That night, the primary pump failed. The control room reached for the backup pump and no warning lights, no signs of danger. They started it, pushing pressurized condensate against a cap never designed to hold it. The error was completely invisible until the first explosion proved otherwise. The blast hit at 9:58 p.m. A fireball tore through the platform and immediately destroyed the fire suppression system. With nothing fighting the flames, fire spread toward the gas risers. Massive pipes connecting Piper Alpha to two neighboring platforms that were, at that moment, still actively pumping. Those neighboring platforms kept pumping. Their managers chose protocol over instinct. Gas kept flowing into the burning rig. The fire had unlimited fuel. The second explosion came at 10:20 p.m., a fireball 200 meters high, visible from Aberdeen, 120 miles away across the dark North Sea. The PA system was destroyed. 84 men gathered in the accommodation block, waiting for instruction that never came. The procedure said, "Go to the lifeboats." The lifeboats were already on fire. Those men had followed every rule correctly. Not a single one of them survived. The survivors were the ones who disobeyed. They climbed to the edge and jumped, some from 53 meters, 174 feet, into black water lit by burning oil. The impact could kill, the cold could kill, but it gave them a chance. Staying inside gave them none. 167 died, 61 survived. 30 bodies were never recovered. The inquiry revealed something worse than the fire. The safety failures had been documented, known and ignored for years before a single person died on Piper Alpha. Lord Cullen's inquiry produced 106 recommendations. Offshore safety regulation worldwide was rebuilt from scratch. But those changes came too late for 167 grieving families. Piper Alpha didn't burn because the North Sea was unpredictable. It burned because the systems protecting those men had been quietly failing for years. She was enormous. At 294 meters, nearly 3 football fields, the MV Derbyshire was the largest British merchant ship ever built, launched in 1976, fully loaded, 169,000 tons. Certified A1 by Lloyd's Register, the highest rating available. By every official measure, she was completely safe. On July 11, 1980, the Derbyshire left Canada bound for Japan carrying 157,000 tons of iron ore. Experienced captain, crew of 42, 2 officers' wives aboard, 4 years old, excellent condition. Every instrument reading normal. By every available measure, this was supposed to be a routine crossing. On September 9, 1980, the Derbyshire sent her last radio message. Hove to in Typhoon Orchid, holding position, riding out the storm. Force 11 winds. The captain sounded calm. After that message, she sent nothing. No distress call, no SOS, no beacon. She simply ceased to exist. 6 days passed before anyone knew she was missing, when she failed to arrive in Japan. Aircraft swept the area. Ships searched. Weeks later, the only thing ever found was a single lifeboat, spotted by a passing tanker. No bodies, no debris. A 294-meter ship, and that was all. The British government concluded quickly, overwhelmed by the typhoon. Case closed. No inquiry, no investigation, no attempt to find the wreck. The ship was gone, the crew was gone, and the story was over. The families were expected to grieve quietly and accept an answer that explained almost nothing. They refused. The families formed an association and campaigned for 14 years, writing letters, petitioning Parliament, gathering signatures. They worked with maritime experts and unions. They were not asking for compensation. They were asking for the truth about what killed the people they loved. In 1994, the International Transport Workers Federation funded a search. Experts said finding the wreck was nearly impossible. Too deep, too vast, too many years. The team deployed anyway. Using the ship's last known position as a starting point, they found the wreck in under 24 hours. The Derbyshire lay 4,000 meters down. ROVS spent over 40 days photographing the wreck and debris. Investigators examined 135,774 individual photographs. Piece by piece, they rebuilt the story of her final hours. A story no one with power had ever bothered to look for. She hadn't been swallowed by one catastrophic wave. She'd been killed slowly, over hours, by something far smaller. Wave after wave shattered covers on small ventilation pipes at her bow. Seawater entered gradually, almost imperceptibly. The bow sank lower. The cargo hatches crept closer to the waterline. The forward hatch was designed to withstand 2 meters of water pressure. The wave that hit it applied an estimated 20. It buckled in seconds. Hundreds of tons flooded in. The second hatch followed, then the third. 44 people had no warning and no time to send one. The inquiry found a pattern beyond one ship. Between 1972 and 1990, one bulk carrier sank with total loss of life roughly every 6 weeks. Ships disappeared at a rate that in any other industry would trigger emergency action. In maritime, it triggered almost nothing. The losses were quietly absorbed. The families changed that. 21 recommendations followed the reopened inquiry. Hatch cover standards were redesigned globally. Black boxes became mandatory on merchant ships. Thousands of seafarers alive today owe something to the 44 lost on the Derbyshire and to the families who refused to stay silent. The North Sea today is not safer, it is busier. Over 8,000 kilometers of subsea pipelines, hundreds of platforms, and one of the world's largest offshore wind networks. More infrastructure means more workers. More workers means more lives at risk every time the sea decides to remind us. The storms haven't changed. In winter 2023, waves over 12 meters forced platforms to halt and evacuate crews by helicopter in near-zero visibility. Rogue waves still appear without warning. Scientists now believe they occur far more often than anyone admitted for decades. The Dropner wave was not an anomaly. The workers who live on this sea understand something maps cannot show. The sea does not care about your schedule, your cargo, or your deadline. It does not care that the forecast looked fine when you left port. It operates by its own rules. It always has. Piper Alpha burned because people forgot to fear what they were working with. The Derbyshire sank because an industry forgot the people inside the ships it sent out. Neither disaster required the North Sea to be uniquely cruel. It only required humans to stop paying attention. The North Sea is not the deadliest water on Earth, but it may be the most underestimated. Crossed by modern ships, mapped to the centimeter, surrounded by wealthy nations, and it still takes lives. The sea never forgets what it is. The question is whether we do.